I've been reading an interesting book the past week. Steve Waugh, the former Test captain. It's called, and it's not your average sports book. It's called The Meaning of Luck: Stories of Learning, Leadership, and Love. And it begins with a very personal and emotional story about when his family was in turmoil because his wife was struggling for her life. Thankfully, she's recovered and is doing well. In the studio with me, Steve Waugh. Good morning.
Good morning.
Pretty selfish life being an elite sportsman, isn't it?
Oh, it is, mate. You get pampered and looked after, and you take in a nice hotels and you put on a plane, and you don't have to think too much for yourself.
There's more than that. The family takes second place, don't they?
Oh, they do, but they realise that you're doing it for a reason, and that's because you're good at it. It's your living, and you're also setting the family up for, life after sport. So look, I think I was lucky that I met my wife before I started my professional career, so she sort of almost knew what to expect, and it became part of our life. But as a professional sportsman, you're away a lot. I think the Australian cricket team were away for about 270 days a year.
The reason I asked that, I just wonder how much did it, with that background, shake you up when you got the call that your wife was seriously ill?
Yeah, you dread those calls. So I was away for 18 years playing for Australia, and you dread those late night calls where something's wrong with your family. And I was lucky that didn't happen during my whole career, but I found myself on a book tour after I'd written my last book, and I was down in Geelong, and I got a phone call to say my wife was just been taken to hospital from my father-in-law, and can you get back as quick as you can? And the alarm bell started to ring, and went back to the hotel, tried to book a flight out of Melbourne, but it was too late. All the domestic flights were gone, and then thankfully one of my friends organised a private jet. But every subsequent phone call I got, every 5-10 minutes, the news was getting worse. The bleed was on her brain. It was getting bigger. It was and I know a good mate of mine was Charlie Teo, so I knew the seriousness of the situation. And coincidentally, Charlie then took over the case. And but as I got on the plane to fly back to Sydney, my last words with Charlie were, he basically said, you got to prepare yourself for the worst case scenario.
Jeez, what was it like being locked in an aircraft for that flight?
Yeah, look, it was probably the longest hour of my life. Sitting in a plane by myself and just wondering what was going to happen, whether Lynette was still going to be alive. If she wasn't, I've got 3 young kids. How am I going to cope with that? It was everything I'd achieved on the sporting field was just out the window. It was just, the concern was, how are we going to get through this situation?
Sport doesn't look important, does it?
No, moments like that,
no job.
No, everything gets put in perspective when one of your family members is ill or sick and struggling. And at the end of the day, they say family is the most important thing, and I definitely agree with that.
She's really fought to come back, and she's in good shape now. So.
Yeah, she's done amazingly well, and it really was a lot to do with attitude. I mean, she could have sat back and thought, this is, self-pity, and thought, why did it happen to me? In fact, she never complained once why it happened to her. She said, how am I going to get better? And I believe, like when she says it was a stroke of luck because it gave her a different perspective on life afterwards. She now sees things in a different light and probably clearer, and she sort of prioritises life in a different way. So that's where the title of the book came from, The Meaning of Luck, and it was really inspired by Lynette when she said her stroke was a stroke of luck.
How's it changed your life?
Look, I think at those initial first couple of years, it was a real shock to the system. I became Mr. Mum and looked after the household, and because Lynette lost her peripheral vision, so she couldn't drive for the first 12 months. That amazingly had come back with the rewiring of the brain. It's incredible how it heals. She now can drive, but the first 12 months I was sort of doing all the driving and pretty much the domestic chores with the help of obviously the in-laws and good friends, but it was all about her recovery, and she needed a lot of time for that, and she needed to sleep a lot and to recover. And I think anyone who suffers from a stroke knows how debilitating it can be, and you need to really sleep a lot to heal yourself.
Did it make you feel then, and maybe even now, fragile? That
For sure.
your whole world could be so...
Definitely. It doesn't matter who you are, how much money you got, how much fame, or what position you hold in your job. That really counts for nothing. When someone's really sick, you're all back to the same level, and it's a level playing field. You
had a good blue with her, yeah?
Sorry?
You had a good blue with her since she's recovered?
We're married, yeah.
I bet she wins.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You know who the boss is, yeah.
Look, it is a really touching story. It's great to read it, and there are other things that come through about, as you say, the stories of learning, leadership, and love. One that really stood out to me in the cricket field, though, was from Geoffrey Boycott, where and I guess I could picture you walking out to bat, and you walked out like, "Get out of my way, you bastards! I'm here to make runs."
Sure.
And that was affected, really, wasn't it? You didn't actually feel that inside.
No, and I didn't do that. And it's interesting you picked that up because when I first started playing cricket, I obviously had a lot of natural talent. Mark myself, a natural talent. We always were the.
He's the one with the talent, isn't he?
Well, that's what they say, but it was funny the other way around. As juniors, it was myself, who was a more flamboyant, used to score quickly. In fact, I didn't get picked for one rep team because the selector said, you scored too quickly, you've got to slow down. But I learned to sort of play a different way as I got to the Australian side. But I was playing for, I think, Somerset at the time, county cricket, just before I'd been picked in the Australian side. And Jeffrey Boycott was watching this game at Scarborough, the Scarborough Festival, and I got out pretty cheaply and I walked off, and the first person I met was Jeffrey Boycott. And he said, what are you doing? The way you walk out the pitch, it looks like you're going out there to sort of fail. Your body language is so bad, you're so negative, you're so slow in what you're doing. Get out there with some purpose and let them know you're in for a contest. And that really resonated, and it stuck in my mind that it was important the way you carried yourself, your body language, whether you got out in the field really quickly, and really put a flag in the turf and to say it was my turf and this is my territory and you're entering my playing field rather than the other way around.
Do you follow that through life? No?
I think it was good advice, yeah, to sort of not so much take the upper hand, but be positive in what you're doing and have good intent and good purpose. And at times in the playing field, body language is crucial because opposition players pick up on it if you're looking really confident. But conversely, if you go out there with a negative mindset, straight away it's like a wounded animal. People, they come in for the kill.
People put a lot of importance on Shane Watson's body language. Is it important? He does look a bit sulky at times.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's really important at that level. I think when you come up against experienced, tough competitors who've been around for a while, they pick up on body language really quickly. It might be just the way you're standing, maybe the way you walk out there. If you're batting and you hear someone in the field say something, it might be even the way they say it or the way they're interacting with other players. So there are subtle signals you can pick up, and it's interesting to say that about Shane Watson. I think at times he does walk a bit slowly and a bit as if something bad's going to happen. So I think when you have that sort of persona, sometimes it's a bit like iron filings to a magnet. It just attracts it.
You were a top junior soccer player, made the choice with cricket, so you've been around sport and you clearly love sport, and your parents are into tennis as well. Yeah. And very good tennis players. Have you ever seen anywhere at any level of sport, and we're going through this Essendon thing at the moment, people using performance-enhancing substances?
Not in the sport I played, no. It's just...
what would you take in... I was talking to Adam Scott about it the other day. He said, beta blockers that help, that's about all. But what would you take in cricket?
Oh, mate, the only things I saw blokes taking were beers. Yeah. Quite a lot of them when I first started playing. But look, I can't imagine what would help cricket. To get bigger as a bowler, it's not an advantage because you're almost too bulky and you can't get your rhythm. So I think the only thing perhaps help players would be overcoming injuries. But in my career, I never saw it. So I'm not naive to think that it doesn't happen in sport because it's such a big business these days with a lot of money and there's a lot of people influencing what's going on. But in my time in cricket, I never saw anything like that.
You playing golf?
I play a bit of golf, not enough. I try and get out there. I really enjoy it because it's a game that, a bit like cricket, it's a real test of your mental abilities because there's so much time between shots to talk yourself out of something. If you see water, it's like, don't hit it in the water, of course it's going to go in the water. So I find golf a really mentally stimulating game as well.
What are you off?
About 7.
That'll do.
Yeah, no, it's not too bad, yeah.
Well, look, congratulations on the book,
Thank
Steve Waugh, The Meaning of Luck, Stories of Learning, Leadership and Love. What's ahead? What are you going to do?
Look, at the moment I'm self-publishing this book, so I've got to get out there. I've taken that challenge on, so I really enjoy that. The charities are going well, both here and overseas, and some business opportunities, and I'm on a few boards. I've got three kids in the teenage years, mate, so that's taking a lot of my time.
And you would have made runs last night, wouldn't you, against the Poms? Pretty ordinary.
Look, no doubt, yeah. I mean, you always think you're going to make runs. The longer you retire, the better you get. But, I was surprised that the team they picked, I thought they would have really gone hard at this test match and picked a goal at Chris Tremlett, but they took the option to take a few new guys, and we took advantage, so it's been good for us.
Thanks. You won't go into politics one day, will you?
No, thanks, yeah.
Good, thank you. Thanks for coming in. Congratulations on the book.
Thanks very much.
Steve Waugh, former Australian cricket captain.